I read here that your father actually died of alcoholism. Tell us your story, and obviously through the eyes of a child growing up, what are the repercussions of this?
Look, I think it's important to sort of understand that when I was a child, it was my normal, right? So I didn't understand that life could be any different. And for me, it wasn't until I got into my adulthood that I started to realise that there was huge impacts, right? And it was sort of long-lasting. I learnt very quickly in the house, and this is common for children in this situation, that the rules of the house are that you don't talk, you don't trust, and you don't feel. And it's not that you're ever told they're the rules of the house, but because of the stigma that comes with addiction and the sort of family secret, you learn those things very, very quickly.
Just what do you mean? I mean, was it a violent household? Was it disrupted? Was it the fact that your father could work or not work or earn money or flitter away the housekeeping or whatever? Just give us a picture of what it was.
In my instance, all of those things were true. There was violence. There was sort of domestic, violence going on within the house. But some of the, real long-lasting sort of damaging wounding that I experienced as a child was that constant sort of walking on eggshells. You never really knew how my dad was going to be. I became an expert at sort of reading people's facial expressions and, judging how my dad was going to be. I became hyper-vigilant, concerned about my mum all of the time, and, was always worried about how I should show up and how I should act, because I didn't want to be the person that would set my dad off on a spree.
It says here, 920,000 children in the UK are living in these kind of situations.
So it's definitely a thing. It's an identifiable thing.
And, 46%, are coping alone. How did you as a child, did you ask for help? Did the teachers pick up? Were social services involved? Did the doctor pick up? Is nobody picking this up?
Well, look, because we know that most of these children stay silent, as I stayed silent, it's not just that you stay silent, you learn very, very quickly what people in society think of somebody like my dad, right? So you learn very quickly to not just keep it a secret, but to act like everything's okay, right? And that becomes like a common trait of children affected by parents drinking, is this consistently and constantly trying to act like everything's all right all of the time. So a lot of them are suffering completely in silence, right? Completely in silence, and are not even discovering that some of their struggles are related to a parent's drinking until they're into their adulthood and have had their own struggles.
Josh, if the parents or one of the parents is an alcoholic, is there a knock-on effect? What proportion of children turn to alcohol?
Well, we know that children are sort of 3 times as likely to have a struggle with addiction themselves if they've had a parent that struggles with it. But it's not always sort of alcohol addiction that they'll go on to struggle with. There is this, key struggle when you get into your adulthood with not understanding why you struggle with the shame that you struggle with. I lived with, and still do to a degree sometimes, with, this constant feeling that there's something wrong with me. Yeah, I'm always trying to hide certain parts of myself because I grew up in an environment that kind of forced me to do that, right? To hide parts of myself. So that shame leads you to try and find ways to escape that, right? To try and not feel that constant shame that you feel. And that's why something like NACOA is so important, right? Because when I found that in my mid-20s, it was the first time in my life I started to realise that I'm not broken, there's nothing wrong with me, but I've been reacting to the world in the best way that I know how, based on the experiences that I've had.
Now, you're hosting an event at the House of Commons. Tell us about that, because the government really are not doing very much to help children like this, are they?
We launched a number of years ago the first ever all-party parliamentary group to support children of alcoholics. We launched that around 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it was around 4 years ago there was some funding put forward for NACOA and other charities that support children affected by parents drinking, but in 2021 that was completely cut. And so now, most of these children that are living with a parent that drinks too much are receiving no direct support from the government. Yeah, so it's important that we keep banging this drum to make sure people realise.
So anyone who knows someone like that, or any child of an alcoholic who's watching or listening today, what would you say to them?
That they're not alone, firstly, right? That the ways that they feel likely make perfect sense based on their experience, and that if they can find somebody that they can trust to be able to be open about what they're experiencing, it will make a huge difference. And NACOA has a national helpline that anyone affected by parents drinking can call and speak completely anonymously to a trained helpline counsellor who's going to help them to understand that, it's not their fault that they're experiencing what they do.
Do you know what that national helpline is, or what it's
the best thing to do is visit nacoa.org.uk, right? And you'll find all of the number. And what we know is that children are often so terrified to reach out that if they do visit the website, they can almost kind of do it in even more secrecy without even having to ring the helpline. We've got loads of content and stuff that young children can engage with,